Want to forget. And I have to turn on our hold on a minute. I can't think and oh, there you go. Transcript. Transcript is on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There we go. So what we'll do is I will ask that you all mute and everyone except me and Rebecca turn off your video. I'll introduce tonight's session. And then you all can come back on when it's your time.
Are you introducing the speakers, Amy?
I will introduce Rebecca and I'll just say, Rebecca, I'll just say your name. And if you have a really nice slide there that talks about your background and history. And since you're going to be sharing that, we're going to let you say more than what I would. So it's 2 till, just a second. Everybody looks good. So, Laurie, if you're listening, after Rebecca's done, depending on how things are going, can you help me with introing Will and Shay and Janet, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? I just switched to my headset.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right, here we go, guys. Good evening, everyone. This is Amy Clausen with Ohio Family to Family. Welcome to our first transition booster session of 2022. We'll take a few moments and let everybody join in here. We're quickly admitting everyone. And hopefully Laurie and I are both admitting folks behind the scenes here. Good evening, everyone. We are still admitting folks, so we will get started in just a moment. Thank you for joining us for our first transition booster session of the year. We're going to talk the down and dirty about beating loneliness and isolation, especially during this unprecedented times with COVID. Glad you could make it with us tonight. Okay, great. Well, here we are this evening. I'm Amy Clausen. I am glad to be part co-host, part cheerleader. Very excited to have this panel of speakers with us tonight. I work with Ohio Family to Family. I am from Northeast Ohio. I live here in the Cleveland area and work here as well. I work with Ohio Family to Family. We are housed within Cincinnati Children's, but of course I live and work remotely. We are grant funded, so we'll be asking you to graciously take a few minutes at the end of the session tonight and give us an evaluation. We desperately need you to fill those out so that we have good reports at the end of the year. Tell us what we need to do better. Tell us what we did well, and anything else in between. So while we're getting acclimated here tonight, I wanted to let you know that we have information on our website, ohiof2f.org. There's my contact information. If after and during the session tonight or anytime tomorrow or next week, you feel like you still have some unresolved questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and I will be sure to try to answer them with our speakers' help. We also have a very active Facebook page. So if you forget some information tonight, check us out there, Ohio Family 2 with the number 2 family. We are recording tonight's session. So we're asking all the participants to please keep their microphones muted and their videos off for now. And maybe later on in the session, we can have some good conversation where we're a little bit more open. And of course, I can't do this alone. I don't like to work alone. So I have some wonderful partners helping make Cleveland Transition Booster Sessions spectacular and as helpful as possible. Wendy's here tonight with us from livespecial.com. Lori Kowalski's here from the Down Syndrome Association of Northeast Ohio. And I know that we have some folks from Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities because they are our speakers here tonight. And we also have several others, Summit DD, Portage DD, Autism Society, Medina County Board of DD, Milestones, and Friendship Circle. And I love them all, and I'm really glad to have them as part of our team here in Northeast Ohio. Just a quick note, our next session is going to be on Thursday, April 21st. This is always a big topic as well, where we have Barbara Judah from LEAP, Linking Employment Abilities and Potential, to help us understand SSI, SSDI, and benefits analysis. And we're unique to have LEAP here in Northeast Ohio, so you'll want to check them out in that session. Again, you all will get emails from me after today, but if you missed that email with a link to the recording for tonight's session and the materials that we'll also share, those will all be able to be viewed and downloaded using this link here under materials and recordings. And almost lastly, before I turn the mic over, please mark your calendars for later this year. We have some really very important topics: transition to adulthood through the lens of some African American moms throughout the state who have children with disabilities, housing and how to pay for it, and college and careers. So check those out later on in the year. And so I will stop screen sharing. And again, I want to thank you. Please use your chat to ask questions. Either Laurie, Wendy, or myself will read them off to the speakers. It's possible we'll just have a conversation at the end after all the speakers have shared their presentation. And again, welcome. And I would like to stop my screen share. And Laurie's going to pull up the speakers PowerPoint at this next section of the transition booster. And I'm thrilled to have Rebecca Bryson here with us tonight. She is a wealth of knowledge that I think we all really need to listen to tonight and really try to think about how to improve our lives to avoid isolation. And Rebecca's here from Purposeful Growth and Wellness, and we're thrilled. Rebecca, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Amy, for having me. I'm excited for this opportunity to get to talk with you all. So, Lori, I guess if you can go ahead and just advance, that would be great. Next slide. So just a little bit about me. Like you said, I'm from Purposeful Growth and Wellness. We are a small private practice in Broadview Heights, Ohio. So it's myself and I have one other partner. And we work really with individuals anywhere from 2 and early childhood all the way through adulthood, doing individual, couples, marital therapy, of the like. So I have a pretty strong background. I came from the Cleveland Clinic and started my career with at the Cleveland Clinic Center for Autism straight out of my undergrad, and then kind of went more into the therapeutic role of working with individuals. And the 2 populations I'm probably the most passionate about is early childhood, early intervention, helping individuals, get prepared for school age, as well as young teenagers getting ready for adulthood in whatever way that is. So that's a little bit about me. So next slide, please. And we can keep going. Next slide. So today I just really wanted to talk to you all about when Amy or Lori, I think, reached out asking me to talk about beating loneliness. And this is something that I think has come up for everybody throughout, unfortunately, this COVID pandemic starting back in March 2020, and this understanding of what is loneliness and how does it show up for you. And what I think is really important to understand is this is for individuals who are here with us today. This is for caregivers. This is for parents. This is for, all of us. Nobody can escape from loneliness. We are all susceptible to it, I guess, is what I want to say. So I, kind of looked up because I feel like I've talked about this in passing with people. Like there's got to be research on what is the loneliness and what is the mental health, rising through COVID. And sure enough, we already have research out there. So, just quick, more than 90% of caregivers with a child or an adult with disabilities experience burnout. And I think you guys have all felt that at some point in your life, respectfully. But then now adding on a global pandemic, we can know that that is absolutely increased. And then what I wanted to kind of understand is what is this idea of loneliness? And that's when I started looking more into what I wanted to share with you guys today. So it just talks about why the term loneliness refers to subjective feelings. Social isolation is defined by the level and frequency of one's social interaction. As a generally accepted concept, loneliness is defined as a subjective feeling of being alone, while social isolation describes objective state of individual social environment and interactional patterns. Studies suggest that while loneliness and social isolations are not equal to each other, they can be detrimental to our health throughout different pathways. So a couple things that I want to take out of that. Of course, I just read that to you. You can read that as well. But here's a couple key points I really want you to think about is, and actually, Lori, if you don't mind, I think it's on my next slide. Exactly. So loneliness is not anxiety and depression. And I think I even learned that while preparing for this presentation. Again, I'm going to say it. Loneliness is not anxiety and depression. Now, can anxiety and depression be present with loneliness? Absolutely. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But that is not equal. And I think a lot of times when we think about this loneliness, we assume it's a person who is also experiencing social anxiety, or a person who's experiencing depression or things like that, which absolutely can come with a global pandemic or difficulties getting into a community and things like that. But loneliness can be something, an isolation that you're experiencing when you're around an entire group of people. You could be sitting in an environment that's a social party that has lots of people around you and still be experiencing social isolation and loneliness. And that is something that I want to talk about today, because I think it's so important, how to determine the difference of that, as well as really helping our family and our children and our young adults to feel that, what the difference is and how to help them through that. So it's as Sarah Greenberg, she's a licensed psychologist, just kind of talked about loneliness isn't just the absence of social interaction. It's really about the absence of meaningful, fulfilling social connection. And I think obviously our young adults and our children, as well as ourselves as caregivers, have absolutely experienced that over the last couple of years. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so this is what, I want to help you recognize. And I think we all know who our family members are. We know, kind of what their day-to-day interactions are, their day-to-day moods. We understand when things just are off, right? When they're looking a little off, when they're feeling a little off. We learn that from when our children are babies and they cry differently because they are hungry versus when they are tired versus when they, just want to be held. So that doesn't change as our family members get older, our young adults get older, we still know when something is off. So these are just some of the signs and symptoms that you can absolutely be kind of paying attention to and being aware of, that are they really experiencing something like a social isolation? So withdrawal from daily activities. So what I mean by that is, there's going to be times where you're like, no, I don't feel like going, or, oh no, COVID is absolutely, like, you kind of picked and choose what you wanted to do, or even now what you want to do. Like, there's too many people at that, so we're not going to go to that, but this is a small family party. We know a lot of people are being safe, so we're going to go to that. But withdraw from daily activities is a little bit different. Withdrawal is more this idea of, even though I really like those people, or I really feel comfortable with those people, or those people understand me, they get me, I just don't know if I want to go. Or when I do go, maybe I'm kind of just staying back a little bit. Maybe I'm not as, high, I'm not as social, I'm not as in the group, I'm kind of more pulling back from the group. Maybe I'm kind of sitting on the couch a little bit, or maybe I'm just kind of sitting by the food table, but not really interacting with anybody. Withdraw from daily activities can look like, not engaging as much as we were prior to different situations, or, somebody who we really have a good, comfortable relationship with, all of a sudden I'm kind of, I'm not answering their questions as much as I want to, or maybe my face just looks a little different and I'm not as, my face doesn't look as enjoyable when I'm with those people. So that can look very different for each individual person. But that's what I mean by withdrawal from daily activities. Now, obvious signs, big, really big signs of loneliness and isolation would be complete withdrawal. I'm staying in my room more. I'm not leaving my house at all, even outside of COVID pandemic, or even when I feel safe, I'm, just kind of staying in my room. I'm staying in my chair. I'm not really even leaving the center that I'm at. People come to me over to my house and I still kind of don't engage. So that would be more extreme situations. Decreased participation in ADLs, hygiene, not getting ourselves up in the morning, not getting ourselves showered and bathed, not brushing our teeth, not, I'm not saying everybody needs to get out of the house and look great every single day, but maybe complete change. Maybe I'm not shaving as much. Maybe I'm not doing my hair. Maybe I'm not even brushing my hair, because sometimes that thought process is no one cares about me, or I don't feel like I need to do that because I don't feel like anybody wants to be around me. I don't feel like people want to see me. So that's where some of those thought processes can come from. Unexplained tiredness and or oversleeping. So those can definitely go hand in hand. More nap times during the day, you know, not just cat naps. You know, I think we all can take a 20-30 minute nap a day. I wish I could do that every day, but more like those oversleepings, right? I'm sleeping now, I'm taking naps for 2-3 hours a day, or I'm sleeping until 9-10 o'clock and then I'm still exhausted and I want to go to bed at 8 o'clock. And again, that thought process and, you know, that understanding behind of, it's just more effort. It takes more energy and effort for me to be accepted by others. It takes more effort for me to put myself out there for people to understand me and want to be around me. And I just feel really, you know, kind of alone, and I don't feel like anybody wants to be around me. And so it's kind of, that's where those, you know, thoughts of depression can definitely come in with that. Avoidance of meals, overeating, kind of the same, you know, kind of go with the sleeping. We're either withdrawing from mealtime because we don't want to be around other people. We don't want to go out and go to meals, you know, fear of judgment, fear of safety, you know, COVID concerns, whatever the case might be. It's just too much. There's a lot of people around when we eat. Eating is a very enjoyable activity, but if you're feeling isolated and you're feeling like you're not getting that meal, and so I'd much rather kind of just snack it by myself, but then have sometimes then we overeat because we're in a setting, we're doing it just amongst ourselves. Increased irritability. Thumbs up. Am I still okay, Amy? Because internet just clicked. Okay, thank you. Irritability, kind of chronic, just, you know, quick tempered, kind of always more irritable. You know, kind of that mood change, kind of like not wanting to do things, or always feeling like you're pushing. Well, why don't you want to go out with this? Come on. I don't want to go. Just leave me alone. I don't want to go. You know, that constant mood change. And that's because, you know, if you're really feeling isolated inside and you're feeling like you're not getting a connection from people and it's more exhausting to be around people, you don't want to be bothered with it. You don't want other people to be pushing you because that just makes it feel more uncomfortable. And so that kind of goes into that lack of motivation and that apathetic attitude, that kind of like, well, I'm fine at home. You know, I don't want anybody to come over. I don't want to talk to anybody, or yeah, fine, they can come over, but I'd rather just kind of stay by myself. So, okay, Lori, if you can go next slide. Okay, so maybe you do. Maybe you're at home, you're recognizing some of these symptoms. You notice that your loved ones are kind of feeling a little isolated. You notice that they've withdrawn. So now how do we ask? Now, all of our family members, individuals with disabilities, they have their own thoughts and opinion. And so if we push ourselves on them and say, well, you need to do this and you need to start doing that, I think you're feeling like, whoa, like that's going to be really met with resistance. So we really need to be careful on how we're asking these questions to make sure that we're really highlighting what their needs are, as well as what we can do for them, as well as what they can do for themselves. So I kind of put these questions in what they can do for themselves, as well as what we can do as caregivers to help them. So notice the symptoms. So you've noticed you're a little bit more withdrawn. You've noticed maybe a little bit more isolation, not wanting to get out and be around people. So I've noticed that you've been spending more time alone. Is that something I can help you with? Maybe they're like, no, I'm totally fine. I like it. Or, you know, is that something that you can say, hey, you know I'm going out with Aunt Janet tomorrow. Would you like to come with me? Small group setting. I feel like maybe life has felt a little isolating for you. I recognize that you aren't taking care of yourself as frequently as and I'm wondering if that's something we could talk about. You know, instead of you need to get in the shower. I notice you haven't showered in a couple days, or, you know, you're looking a little scruffy there. I think you need to go shave. That sounds really demeaning. And I think anybody would meet you with resistance for that. So instead, just kind of recognizing, you know, what are you noticing? And is that something that they are, you know, will they admit to feeling isolated? Will they admit and let you know that that is something that they are exactly feeling? You know, for yourself, I'm feeling more tired and I feel like I'm sleeping more than normal, but I'm still just exhausted. That's definitely a sign that, you know, maybe something more is just going on, and it's not that you just need more sleep. Maybe actually we're getting too much sleep. And then, you know, noticing yourself, I feel like when I'm around people, I'm feeling really withdrawn. Like I feel like they're kind of all having a conversation around me and the world is happening around me. And I'm just sitting here and not really finding those connections. Those are actually some questions that we can be asking ourselves, and that can be relating to, you know, if we're feeling lonely or isolated. Okay, go ahead, Lori. Thank you. Okay, so just a couple more. Talking through these concerns with your loved one. Again, we can't push ourselves and say, this is what you need to do. Come on, come join me. Let's go to the store. Let's go to grandma's house. Let's go to, this activity. No, we can't do that, because if someone is truly feeling alone or isolated, those things are not going to help. Exactly like I said, that loneliness is not lack of social interaction. It's lack of social connectiveness. And that's a big difference. So kind of some more specific questions we can be asking our loved ones. Do you feel like you're not getting out enough? So is it just a physical thing? Like, we need to find you more connections. Are you worried or anxious about leaving the house? Is this more of a mental health concern? Is this more, social anxiety, or, I'm feeling people are going to judge me, or I'm nervous of, getting COVID and I don't want to get out with people. We need to understand where those concerns are coming from. Is this loneliness? Is this mental health? Is there something that you can identify that's causing you to feel lonely? Is it, you have all these group of people, but you don't feel like they're connected to you, or they don't understand you? Do you feel like, these relationships have been pushed on you and you're not actually feeling an intimate closeness with anybody? Are you feeling like, just especially because of COVID and we isolated ourselves a lot during 2020, that maybe those relationships have gone a little bit strained, right? That's very common, that a lot of us have lost some social relationships through this time. So maybe even though we get together with Aunt Janet, maybe that connection with Aunt Janet isn't quite the same, and I don't feel that intimate connection with her anymore. And so I don't really need to go to her house anymore. I don't feel like I have that relationship. And then really asking our loved ones and asking our kids, are you feeling fulfilled with your daily life? And even as a caregiver, ask yourself that. And as I was making this presentation, I was like, this is a really good question. I'm not sure how I could answer this question for myself, but are you feeling fulfilled with your daily life? Because if you're feeling like, our loved ones are feeling like they're just going through the motions every single day, or they're having just to do these things that are put on them without them getting to choose what they're doing, they may be missing that opportunity to have those social connections. They may be missing those intimate relationships, or they may be wanting more without us even knowing it. So really making sure, like, are they feeling fulfilled and what that looks like for them. Okay, go on, next slide, please. Okay, so now how to improve it? What do we do? So we've asked all these questions. Maybe unfortunately the answers are yes. Maybe as a caregiver, we're feeling these questions are lonely. So now, the steps that we can take, what do we do about this? So first asking, are you willing to, are they willing to accept your help? Are you willing to help them? Probably. And are they willing to accept that help? And do they want help? Do they even notice that this is how they are feeling? So is it lasting more days than not? Is it more days than not that they're feeling like they'd rather just be at home, or that when they are with a group of people that they're just kind of still, isolated by themselves? And is it impairing their ability to take care of their own needs? Is it impairing their ability to, get up in the morning and practice their hygiene and eat like 3 meals a day, and, go to a job or go to a school or their vocation or whatever the case is? And seeing where you can fit in with helping them with that. Maybe, and I'm going to go into the next slide in a second for that, but not yet. Don't worry, that wasn't meaning switch sides. Sorry, not yet. I messed up my words. Do you feel like you have the motivation to help yourself? So asking them, so I'm here, I'm a parent, I'm a caregiver, I want to help you, but are you willing to take on these steps? Are you willing to find connections and find intimacy in some of these relationships? Are you willing to get yourself back out into the community and find, or reconnect with that friend that you were friends with 2 years ago, but unfortunately we haven't talked to in 2 years? Or is this something that you're willing to help yourself? And I kind of said, don't ask, do you want to get better? That sounds like such a judgment. Like, well, do you want to get better? Well, I don't know. Do you want to get better? So don't ask that question. So instead, kind of asking, like, how motivated are you to change right now? How motivated are you to find something in life that you really enjoy? How motivated are you? Or do you want me to help you find some more intimate relationships or get engaged in some activities that are really meaningful for you? So kind of changing up the way you ask those questions. And then asking like those big questions. Do we need help outside of our family? Do we need help outside of you and your parents and your caregivers? And do we need to find some additional help? And that may be anything from, a mental health counselor to a respite nurse, or, another caregiver who's not mom and dad, who's maybe somebody else that you're, kind of helping out with. So do we need to kind of reach out and get additional things as well? And then what have you done? So maybe you have started to feel lonely. Maybe you have started to feel isolated, like, I'm just kind of here by myself and I feel like the world is going on around me and I'm just sitting here. What have you done? Well, maybe we've started video chatting. Maybe we've gotten involved in some video games on the internet. And so we've made some good social connections that way. That is a great way to help fight loneliness and isolation. And maybe as a parent, you had no idea your child or your young adult was doing that. But kind of finding out what have they done, and is there anything that you didn't know about? Okay, thank you, Lori. Now we can go to the next slide. Okay, so just some really simple steps you can take. And some of these seem obviously fairly easy and fairly self-explainable, but it's actually a lot harder than you would think. And I think a lot of us, I know in the mental health field, we talked a lot about this back in March and April of 2020, because we truly were isolated. All of us were. We were home, the state shut down, stores shut down. We all had to be home. And I know with children, not only my own children, but the children I work with in practice, I was doing these things every single day with them. Like, okay, what are you doing to stay connected? What are you saying to keep those social relationships? But I think over time, as the pandemic has kind of opened up a little bit, and people have gotten, more open, we've gotten away from some of these simple tactics. But then what's happened is, because of that, a lot of us still have these really strong feelings of loneliness and isolation. Like these relationships, like people are moving around outside of us. We go to a store and people are moving around, but I'm still behind this mask and nobody can see me and nobody can really see the feelings that I'm having. And really inside, I'm standing inside this Target and there's 150 people in this Target, but I feel like I'm the most alone person in this store. And now add any type of special need or disability to that. And we just are creating more and more isolation around ourselves. And we've gotten away from some of these very simple tactics that, and I say simple, but they're not, they're really not simple. I'm just meaning, as I look at them, a lot of things that we need to continue to do to form those relationships and to form those intimate social connections. A lot of us joked when the pandemic started, it was kind of nice. Our life slowed down. We didn't have to do all these things that we didn't want to do. But then what happened is, when we started to engage in these activities again that we had to do, we went because we had to go, or because so-and-so's expectations told us we had to go, but we still were missing out on those full connections of being there. We were there and we were a number, or we were invited as a guest, but we weren't forming those intimate social relationships. So I think a lot of us are still feeling that social isolation. So off my tangent there. So create a schedule around daily activities. Okay, I'm going to get up at 8 o'clock. I'm going to have my shower done by 8:30. I'm going to be sitting down to eat breakfast at 8:45. And then I'm going to have some downtime and I'm going to relax. And then by 12 o'clock, I'm going to log in and I'm going to do, some gaming with some friends. And then I have to get to my job by 5 o'clock, or I have to, meet so-and-so for dinner at 5 o'clock. Kind of plan out what your day is looking like. And it doesn't have to be down to the minute by any means. And if something has to change, it has to change. That's absolutely okay. But if we just wake up every single day and go to bed every single day and say, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. Oh, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll call that person tomorrow. I'll email that person tomorrow, or I'll get on that game tomorrow. We're not going to do it, because tomorrow is always going to be the next day and never today. So we really need to keep ourselves grounded and make ourselves do things even when they feel uncomfortable, even when we don't want to do them and they may be challenging, because the more that we do them, the more we're forming those social connections and we're forming that schedule to make ourselves feel, I am part of my daily life. I am part of my daily routine. I'm part of my showering in the morning. I'm part of myself getting for breakfast. And that in itself can be just self-fulfilling prophecy, filling ourselves up instead of waiting for other people to fill ourselves up. Schedule 1 to 2 to community outings a week. And then I also say, like, if it's difficult to leave your house, invite them over and have 1 to 2 people in your home. Again, something you feel comfortable with, that you feel safe with, that you feel a connection with. Don't just say, okay, I'm going to go to the library, I'm going to go to the store. Because again, if that's not an intimate connection for you, then going to the store, going to the library is just going to be another checklist for you. Try to plan a community outing that seems really fun for you. If you're someone who really likes animals, go to the zoo once a week. And even if it's just with you and one other person, like that in itself can feel warm and comforting. It doesn't have to be with a lot of people. So when I'm talking about community outings, it doesn't have to be something that's this big grandiose thing. It's something that you feel a connection for, that you feel fulfilled with. And it could be as little or as many people as you'd like. But again, that self-fulfilling prophecy, finding ways to fill your bucket, fill your cup up. And again, this is beyond your normal scheduled activities. This is something kind of above and beyond that. If it's something you have to bring people into your home, again, people you feel safe with. And it's not just, okay, bring them into my home and we're just going to sit there. It's bring into my home and let's play a game. Let's, log in and play a video game together. Let's make cookies together. Let's make a craft together. Let's clean my house together, anything that makes you feel, again, more fulfilled. And it doesn't have to be a big, grandiose thing. It's something that you feel that connection with. Setting goals is always a great thing, daily, weekly, monthly. By the end of the week, I'd really like to make sure that I have read 3 chapters in a book, or I'd really like to make sure that I, called that one friend, or I'd really like to make sure that I organize that one thing that I need to organize. Because again, these are things that are going to help you feel, like this. Somebody just posted, make a list of things you would like to do, or you'd like to plan or visit, making lists for yourself. That could absolutely be part of those daily, weekly, and monthly goals. Absolutely. Like things that I really want to go see the Cleveland sign in Lakewood. Perfect. Find a day, it's going to be nice out tomorrow. That's the day that we're going to do that. Finding volunteer experiences. This is something that I love to do. And unfortunately, I know I don't do it enough, but sometimes those are things that, again, they make you feel connected, because if you volunteer in a place that you feel very connected with, if it's something that you're really passionate about, go volunteer there. I know lots of teenagers and lots of young adults who love to do animal shelters, who love to do, or nursing homes, or doing, I just looked up a bunch the other day and I'm totally blanking, but just different volunteer experiences, things that where you feel like you're going to have other individuals your age or your child's age. And museums, perfect. Museums, theaters, different. Yeah, absolutely. Just places where you feel like there's going to be individuals who respect you, who get you, who understand you, that you can feel a part of something. Because not only are you going to feel connected to the people around you and feel those social relationships, but if you can feel a part of something, I'm a part of, somebody wrote a food pantry. I am part of that. I am part of that museum. I am part of that other person's experience at that event. I am part of these dogs, walking. Then Cleveland Orchestra, absolutely. Thank you. People are seeing some great opportunities. That's a great part to, again, fill yourself to say, okay, I'm not just sitting here as the world is going on around me. I am actually being engaged and I'm a part of something. And sometimes it takes that pressure off. If you do have some social anxiety as well, it takes that pressure off of having to actually interact with people, and still just let you be part of that situation or part of that experience. And then I find a safe person to talk to. So again, if you feel like this needs to be something more than just your parents, or more than just a boss or someone in your family, absolutely finding that safe person to talk to. This could be a mentor. This could be another individual who you feel connected with, who's gone through the same experiences as you. This could be, of course, a mental health professional. Thank you. And then just asking yourself. So this is, quality versus quantity. I work with younger teenagers as well, 12, 13, 14. And I think everyone has this expectation that we have to have this huge social group, or we have to have this huge population and following on Instagram. And we have to have all these friends and all these different volunteer experiences and all these jobs, and that none of that is true. And so if we continue to fill our brain with this idea that we have to have all these things, and we have to have all these friends, and we have to have all these experiences, we're absolutely going to start to feel lonely and isolated when we realize, well, that's not true, or that's really hard, or that's not, you can't maintain that. These people who have hundreds of thousands of followers, that's the loneliest someone has ever felt. There's hundreds of thousands of people who follow me on Instagram, but when I'm really sad and depressed or really feeling lonely, like I just want to go out, who am I going to call? One of those hundreds of thousands of people? Probably not. So what I want us to focus on is quality versus quantity. What is the quality of your life? What are you doing to help yourself to feel fulfilled? What relationships are you filling up that help you feel connected? What experiences are you doing that's helping you feel connected and loved and a part of something? So that's why, like I said, jobs sometimes are great. Sometimes jobs can be really draining and they don't make us feel fulfilled. So if you're in a job, or a vocation, or, your child's working somewhere and they just kind of feel like they're having to do what they have to do, that may feel really lonely and isolating for them. So instead, is it more beneficial for them to be in a place where they are still learning skills, but they're volunteering and feeling fulfilled, and they're with, individuals who are giving them meaningful relationships and meaningful work and meaningful life lessons. And so just really thinking about, what are we enjoying? What do we do day to day? And where are we feeling those connections? Okay, next slide, Lori. Okay, and then just, sorry, I know I'm on time, so I'm going to rush really fast through these. What if they're resistant? So obviously, they're still their own individuals and they still are adults, and they can absolutely be like, leave me alone. I'm quite content sitting in my bedroom doing what I want to do. And that's hard as a parent at any age, right? I mean, I think sometimes even, my mom is, to me like, well, I can't help you with that, and she wants to help me with that. So I think at any age, having anyone who's resistant is difficult. So, but I think more than anything, really just kind of gauging, is there something more going on? If they truly are resistant to some of the things we just talked about, is there some more, mental health concerns? Are they truly depressed? Is there actual depression going on? Is there, some really, really strong social anxiety that I don't want to go out because I'm nervous what people think of me. I'm nervous about judgment. Is this poor self-esteem that I don't see myself as, a strong individual? And so it's really me, like I'm hurting myself versus actually feeling lonely and isolated. And that may take a professional to determine that, versus just a parent like that. Not saying a parent can't, but that may take some more digging to determine, is this true loneliness and isolation, or is this something else? And then if you're feeling pushed away, it's okay. It's okay to push a little bit. It's okay to kind of help put some plan in that. Hey, we have to go to this appointment at 1 o'clock, but we're actually going to go to lunch beforehand. Where would you like to go to lunch? Kind of put some structure in that. Families coming over for dinner. I'd really, like it if you could hop in the shower before then, or I'd really like it if we can make sure that we're clean, and shaved before people get here today. Or bring them together, bring them out of the room. Let's do this together. Let's form that intimate connection. I'd like to play a puzzle, or how about we play that new video game that you're learning how to do? Those kind of things. Okay, next slide. And then I said, it's okay to start small, right? We don't have to solve the world's problems in one day. So, starting with very small things, if it's 1 outing a week versus 2 to 3 outings, if it's, just looking online for volunteer experiences, we don't have to go yet. We don't have to do anything yet. Let's just look, let's see what's out there. Let's give a couple people a call. Let's reach out to that person that we were really good friends with, or, kind of had a connection with 2 years ago, back in March 2020, but maybe we haven't talked to since then. Let's just send them a text. Let's just send them an email and see what happens and see if they respond. So it's okay to start absolutely small. We don't have to, try to dive into all these things at once. And then again, I just kind of emphasized, if more mental health is needed, or an additional person who's not a parent or a caregiver, make sure that that's okay. That doesn't mean that anyone's failing. That doesn't mean that anything's wrong. It just means sometimes, we need to include other people into our village for our families. Okay, go to the next slide. And I think we could actually, go ahead, Lori. Yeah, so I just put some things on here, but I think Janet is going to talk on these things. So I think I am actually, last slide, if you don't mind, Lori. Thank you so much. I did put a couple on here. I know my local church, I go to Bay Pres in Bay Village. I know they have a lot of really, really great resources. But I also, so a lot of local churches have resources. So I did put a couple on here, but again, I think Janet is gonna speak as well. So if you can just go ahead to my last slide with any questions. Yeah, so there's my contact information if you guys need anything, but otherwise, Amy and Lori, thank you so much for having me today. And I look forward to hearing some of the other speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Are there any questions for Rebecca before we move on to the Good Life Ambassadors and their presentation? We'd be happy to take a question or two.
Hey, Rebecca, this is Will Gallup, one of the Good Life Ambassadors at Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Have you met a number of families whose parents would rather be their caregivers rather than find other people to help?
Yes, thank you, Will, for that question. That's a great question. I have, and you know, I think as a young adult, Will, I think, or as an adult, I think it's so important for you to speak up for your needs, right? Parents are great. They've been your
Right.
caregivers, you know, from birth until 18 and maybe a few years beyond that. But I think if you're feeling like, okay, mom, dad, whomever it is, like you need to back off, you need to let me do my thing, or I'm not comfortable
Right.
with these experiences anymore. That's a really tough conversation to have, but I think you can feel empowered to do that. And maybe get another adult who you feel comfortable with. Maybe it's a boss, maybe it's, you know, a colleague, or maybe it's someone that you work with, you know, at the ambassadors program, and bring them alongside as like a second person to talk to your parents. But I do think it's really important as parents, you know, because I know we have a lot of parents on here as well, to recognize where's that fine line of being my child's caregiver versus like they need to do it on their own with maybe another caregiver, or like you said, Will, like maybe someone else who's alongside with you, but then backing away from
Mhm.
mom, just being mom and dad. Like, hey, I just
Right.
want to come over for dinner, or I just want you to help, you know, teach me how to cook dinner. I don't want you caring for my, you know, everyday needs. But that's a great question. And I think as a young adult, feeling empowered to have that conversation with your family.
Right, because if parents can look at that and look at other families who have caregivers that help their kid, it makes them more independent than you realize.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Sure
my
does.
mom knew from the get-go what I needed early on.
Mhm.
So thank God for that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be where I am today.
And we're thankful for her, right? You're never going to say you didn't appreciate your mom, but I think it's also okay to say like, mom, you've done your job, you know, and I appreciate everything you did.
Right,
You know, now I'm ready to either do it on my own and or do it on my own.
right.
Oh, I was muted, and that's absolutely okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, guys. That's a good question, Will. And I think that's a great segue into your presentation. Laurie, if you could go ahead and give control over to Janet. We would like to introduce Janet Keeler and Shay and Will, and they're going to give us some more tips and tricks. Is that correct, you guys?
Uh-huh.
Yes, it is. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for the introduction. And Rebecca, thank you for sharing all of that really helpful information for everyone here and those suggestions to beat loneliness. I know when Will and Shay were listening to the things that you said, that many of those things resonated with them. And you'll see very similar themes in the experiences that they're going to share this evening. So for everybody out there, I appreciate, Amy, your invite to your Transition Booster series. And all three of us are proud to spend some time with you this evening. And I actually see so many familiar names here. So hello to all my old friends out there, and hello to all the new friends that I'm gonna make here tonight. So tonight we're gonna share with you just a teensy bit of information about the county board. And then we're gonna have for you a wonderful facilitated discussion with two of our Good Life ambassadors. Will and Shay will share their experiences during the pandemic and give you some insights on how they stayed engaged and how they stayed positive. Finally, at the end, I'm so excited to demo for everyone the board's new online resource guide to inclusive places jobs, and events. And this is a really user-friendly way to find in-person and virtual activities. I'll just introduce myself super quick. Janet Keeler, I'm the Division Manager of Community Development at the board. And as such, my role is really in 3 or 4 different areas. I have a workforce development team that engages businesses to hire individuals with developmental disabilities, all disabilities. I have a team of community development specialists who go out there and find places and coach them to be adaptive, inclusive, and accessible. And then I have a small division of community access specialists, which travel train people to get to all of those wonderful areas. So they can get there by walking, biking, ride shares like Uber and Lyft. We train folks on the RTA and paratransit. And finally, actually, our most frequent referral in that department is helping people get their temporary driver's license. And that is so much fun.
Wow.
Help people get that. We are so excited to be coaching and mentoring people to get their temps. So did everybody see that slide change?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So the mission, I just wanted to make sure, because sometimes it sticks on one screen and I'm five screens ahead and everyone's still looking at the first one. So obviously our mission at the board is to support and empower people to live, learn, work, and play in their community. We have about half the people that we serve at any given time are over the age of 22. Half of those folks are under the age of 22. So we're split right down the middle between young folks that we serve and younger folks that we serve. Over the course of a year, we serve about 12,000 people. At any given time, it's about 10,000. So it's exciting to be involved in so many people's lives. Here's just a very quick informational guide as to the services and supports that we offer from birth all the way through to senior years. I'm glad that you guys are going to get a copy of this PowerPoint because it will, this will be a good guide for you as your children sort of move through young adulthood into adulthood. We offer a broad range of expertise. You'll see some of those specialists were on that previous slide, but to Rebecca's point, we do have behavioral and health professionals, social workers, counselors to help with the mental health aspect that many folks are struggling with during the pandemic. We do strive to stay up on best practice and stay innovative in the field. So we have a custom living environment, which we named the CLE. It's a smart apartment located in one of our downtown buildings, and it houses a lot of technology that individuals can use to be independent in their own living environment. And then we took all of that smart stuff and we put it in an ATV, our assistive technology vehicle, and we drive that retrofitted bus around with all that smart apartment stuff. And we could take it to providers, we could take it to schools, we could take it to any type of fair so families can take a peek at it, providers can take a peek at it and learn about all the great stuff that we could put into apartments for folks. My department also facilitates the Employment Collaborative, which is a group of about 60 employment providers, which work together to hook up business leads and job leads in the community with people who are looking for work. Our goal this year in 2022 is to find employment for 215 people. That's our goal. We hope to surpass that as we surpassed it last year. Check out our website. There's new housing options being loaded up every month. We've put some new videos up there about some of these new housing options. So I'm excited to point you to the website to see that. And then at the end of the presentation, I am going to demo for you our online resource guide to help people that you support find more opportunities to participate in inclusive community life. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to our Good Life ambassadors. Well, actually, Will, I'm going to let you introduce yourself first, and then I'm going to let Shay do the honors.
All right.
Will Gallup, you have the floor.
Actually, I was thinking ladies first.
All right then. What a gentleman. Go ahead, Shay.
All right, without further ado, hello. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Shay Taylor. I'm a Good Life Ambassador for the Cuyahoga DD. And I've been working with the GLAs for over a year now. So I feel blessed to be working with the group and sharing my ideas and listening to your ideas and to your inputs.
Shay, you want to give us a little information about your family or school or what your goals are?
Yeah, my family is. I have a twin sister. Her name is Sharita, and I'm adopted. And my goal is to help advocate for young girls and women with disabilities. Because more often than not, there are misconceptions about girls and women with autism, and some people say that we don't have it. The truth is we do, and it's very different from girls and boys. It's very different from boys and men.
Good point. Will Gallup.
Thank you, Shay, and thank you, Janet. Good evening to each and every one of you. I'm Will Gallup. Oh. I am Will Gallup. I am also a Good Life Ambassador, and I've been with the program since it began right in the beginning, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I'm also a member of the Human Rights Committee at the Rosemary Center. And they're actually the ones that told me about the opportunity. So I'm very happy and very lucky to have been a part of the program since the beginning. It's been a turning point in my career. And I grew up in Orange Village on the east side. I have a family, I have a sister, 3 years apart. And now I've lived independently in Parma for nearly 5 years. And my goal is to not only continue to be independent for myself, but continue to make the difference and make the world a better place for the disabled.
Love it, Will. I love it. And Will and Shay are two representatives of our Good Life Ambassador program. There are 3 other Good Life Ambassadors, Sean, Grace, and Patrick, who can't be with us here tonight, but they certainly are with us in spirit. This is a very spirited group. They love to joke around with one another. They all have a great sense of humor, and it's been a privilege being able to be involved with them for the time that I have, the short time that I have.
It's a privilege to work with you, Janet.
Thank you, Will. All right, Will's going to tell us a little bit about the Good Life Ambassador program, since he has been there since the very beginning.
So the reason why the program began is because that the county board believed that people with disabilities should be the one advocating for themselves and others, not the adults at the county board. I mean, we want them to continue to advocate for us, but we need to be the ones advocating for the other disabled people. And then the program was established in July of 2016, and I was one of the first ones hired. We work with the Cuyahoga DD, and our presentations are tailored to audience members. Next slide, please.
Absolutely. All right, so here we go. We're going to get down to the good stuff, Will and Shay. So we know that there were many negative aspects of the pandemic, but part of staying healthy is to try and see the positives around you. So Will and Shay, we talked about what some of those positives are for you. Can you, Will, start us off and talk a little bit about the positives?
Sure. Well, one of the biggest positives in this pandemic is that a lot of the longtime friendships that I've had have gotten a lot stronger than they ever have before. And then Youth Challenge, which is an organization that I've been involved with for nearly 23 years. They have, you know, we always pull together whenever we go through very difficult times. And I don't think there's ever been a time like the pandemic where they pulled together the way they have during this time. And I'm very proud of them for the way they've gotten so creative and still find a way to keep us connected mentally, even though we couldn't be together mentally in the beginning. And then even though we have our moments, we have our fights once in a while, some necessary, some not necessary. I feel like I've gotten a lot closer to my sister because she did a lot more caregiving for a while than usual. She actually became my caregiver before the pandemic. And then it gave me some time to focus more on my mental and physical self. And I still try to make more time for that as well. And now, Shay, it's time for you to share some positive aspects.
Thank you, Will. So some of the positive aspects of the pandemic for me is when I slow down and to smell the roses, because we're all hurrying all the time. It's always bam, bam, bam. So, and for me, I welcome the slowdown, and it gave me more time with the caregivers and parents. And I feel closer to my brother. He's 21, by the way, because the pandemic helped him grow up. Next slide, please.
All right, so I'm trying to get to the next slide, folks.
It's all right.
I'm hitting this, I'm hitting it. I don't know why it's not going. I seem to be stuck on this side. Let me stop sharing and maybe I'll start again and it will be.
I want to comment on whoever said I don't look past 25. I get that all the time that I age pretty well.
I don't know why my slides are not advancing.
Let me see if I can help out a little bit. I got my copy.
Okay. So while I'm trying to do this, the next slide was a couple negative aspects of the pandemic, that in preparing for this, we certainly recognized that not everything was positive, and Will and Shay can share some of what they felt was the negative aspects.
Yes, I can start. Well, the negative impacts of the pandemic really disrupted my schedule, and I kind of felt lonely, and I couldn't see my friends that I've been close with for a while, and I couldn't access my community, and the whole pandemic made me a little bit stir crazy.
Bear with me a second. I'm looking for that page.
Yeah, and you know, during a pandemic, everybody is stir crazy.
Here we go.
There we go. We're gonna leave it like this because I see it seems to be advancing nicely if I do it this way. So
Yeah.
wait till we get to the technology slide. Then Janet will talk about her problems with technology.
Oh,
All right, Will, do you have some negative aspects of the pandemic that you saw?
yes. Lack of social face-to-face connection with people. Having to social distance when I am a person who loves to hug people. I definitely felt a lot of loneliness.
Yeah,
I went stir crazy as well.
you guys both got a little cabin fever, huh?
Yes, did.
We sure did.
So one of the things also that I know that Rebecca talked about was disruptions in people's routines. So we talked a little bit about how you managed to say positives through some of those negative aspects, but much like the rest of the world, you both had some major disruptions in your lives. Shay can attest to, for some folks on the autism spectrum, where sticking to routines is important to reduce anxiety. And people count on consistency, right? To maintain stability and fight off those feelings of anxiety and stress. Shay,
Yes.
can you talk a little bit about how your daily routines were affected by the pandemic and how have you dealt with it?
That's a very good question. One of the main disruptions in routines is I stopped going to my day program, and before COVID hit, I went to My Choice, which is located around Parma, Ohio, and I had to create a schedule for myself, and I had some sensory items. Let me see.
I have some too that I could share.
I have a fidget spinner with me,
Oh, wow.
and occasionally I start journaling, and it helps me get my feelings out.
And you feel better after that, huh, Shay?
Yes.
Yep. Yep. Will, how about yourself? How have you dealt with some disruptions in your routines? I know you've had a lot of disruptions in some areas.
Well, I have some stuff like this too, like Shay does.
Mm-hmm.
But right in the beginning, I had to quarantine temporarily at my parents' house from March till late June of 2020. And then I lost 4 different caregivers in a short span last summer. And then my sister had to work a lot of shifts for a while because of that. And it really was taking a toll on her. And that was disruptive for me. Although I love hanging with her, but sometimes a lot is a little too much sometimes.
You got that right. So another thing that we talked about is that there's a staffing crisis. And I think probably everybody in the field of developmental disabilities knows that the shortage of staff means that people receiving services are often getting a rotation of staff coming in and coming out who don't have that established relationship with them, possibly unfamiliar with your needs and your wants and your preferences and even your communication style. So not having stable support has left many people feeling anxious and lonely and unsettled. Will, you talked a little bit about losing some of your direct care staff. How has that crisis affected you and other people that you know?
Well, it affected my sister and I especially because 3 of them quit suddenly. And then 1 I had to let go, which I really was trying to hold off on, knowing that we were short staffed. And then the more stress I got, the more I realized that if I didn't make the move, my mental health would have taken a toll on me. So,
That was you. So you are a great self-advocate there. What other relationships did you see stressed, Will?
well, I didn't see my mom very much in the beginning because we were trying to protect her. And she's in her 70s and she's in the high risk group. So
Mm.
we were doing our best to protect her. And then on the upside, it made me appreciate all my staff and healthcare workers in the hospitals and my family and all my friends. And then it helped me. And then I was able to stay in contact with people, whether it's by Zoom or FaceTime with friends, and talk to friends and make sure that they're doing okay. Make sure they're okay, not just me. And then talk and play games and all that stuff. And Shay, why don't you share some of your relationship stresses?
Of course. One relationship that I stress is I realized and acknowledged a new relationship with my parents. And I've gotten very, very close to my mom because I help her out with a lot of stuff. And then I take guidance and advice from caregivers. And I stay in contact with friends, either by FaceTime with friends or Zoom with the GLAs. And I also tend to think and pray and send good thoughts to people that you can't speak to. especially those that you have cut off during your lifetime.
All right. So here's the technology issues. We can all acknowledge Janet Keeler has had technology issues tonight.
Oh.
I'm just saying that, right? So, but technology issues during the pandemic have hit many, many people hard. The inability to afford or access technology to connect with friends and family and medical and mental health services contributes to those increased feelings of isolation and loneliness. Also, it's worth noting, and I noted it very well tonight, that just because you have technology doesn't mean you know how to use the technology. So sometimes there's a big learning curve there. But Will and Shay, we talked about this before, you didn't have significant impacts in your technology. Will, can you talk a little bit about how come?
Well, luckily, I've been a whiz with technology long before the pandemic occurred. And my primary computer at the time broke down, as well as my old computer that I had before that was at my parents' house. And then my longtime provider let me borrow his old iPad. And then I realized that moving cursor around with finger is much easier than doing it with a mouse. So that's when I decided to purchase my own iPad.
And how do you like it?
I love it.
That's
It
great.
works wonders. And Shay, what were some of the technology issues that you had?
Well, at the start of the pandemic, I couldn't get a hold of anyone, which was really tough, but I feel lucky to have equipment already. I have an iPad, so to contact the GLAs whenever we have our Wednesday meetings, and I had to learn Zoom.
I had to learn too. I had to learn that too, Shay. A lot of people had to learn a whole new way of communicating with one another. For some people for all the people who are connected to the board, just so everyone knows, to help solve some of these technology issues, the board does assessments for assistive technology equipment. We have a very large lending library and can trial softwares. We assist in acquiring funding for some equipment, and we provide training on that hardware and that software, which apparently Janet Keeler needs to take that training again because she can't move her slides forward, but that's another story. Here we go. Let's talk about issues with boredom, because I know that many people got bored over the pandemic. Shay, what did you do to keep yourself from getting bored?
What I did was I tried to find new things to do. I learned how to cook, and I enjoyed nature, and I would go to the park once in a while, and I would go to the metro parks with my mom and my sister once in a while when it's warm. And I would exercise via Zoom, and I would take a dog for a walk, and I would help my mom with certain projects like gardening and shoveling and all that. And finding things to do, like fun activities. And Janet mentioned a virtual shared community.
Take it away, Will. What are some things that you did during the pandemic?
Well, I too spent a lot of time outside, and then try to take care of myself as best I can. Yoga, breathing exercise, meditate, which I need to work on doing more, find soothing activities. And then of course, when I had to quarantine, I was able to spend time with my dog. Well, even though he doesn't live with me, he lives with my parents. And then shared virtual community is definitely one of the things I did. And then I was on more committees and helped be a part of more organizations, as well as Google search for interests and more virtual opportunities than ever.
Outstanding.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sure there were times during the pandemic when it was just hard to stay positive. Shay, what did you do and what suggestions do you have for people out there about staying positive?
Okay, here's what I suggest. When you're trying to stay positive, try not to watch the news because that's all just drama. And I always turn to my mom for advice, and of course I journal to get my feelings out. And also just slow down, take the time to relax. And of course you have your sensory items, stress ball, fidget spinner, and also watch Disney movies while you're at it.
Speaking of Disney movies, I think that was a common theme between Will and Shay, that we had lots of Disney conversations in preparing for this. So Will, take it away. What are some things that you did and can recommend to stay positive?
Well, I second what Shay said, and while it's important to stay informed, we can't let the news get to us. And then it's important to know yourself and your beliefs and perspectives, regardless of what other people tell you. And then practice gratitude. Mental health support is available, and it's great to hear perspective of a professional. I say this because I recently started seeing a therapist to cope with my ADHD and other things. And so far I'm off to a great start, and it's amazing of what they do for you, for sure.
Awesome. That's a great testimonial.
And then normalize experiences too, of course.
Yes. So one of the things we talked about a lot is you guys just talked a lot about all the things you do for yourself and you recommend other people can do for themselves to stay positive and engaged. You also shared with me that you had some great suggestions for how other people like family and friends and professionals can help. Will, can you start us off and give us some suggestions?
I sure will. So share tools and strategies to help soothe, like a stress ball, like this. Or something like a bubble thing, like this. And then listen to music. If you have Spotify or whatever, find something very soothing music-wise. Provide access to mental health providers that have expertise with developmental disabilities. Make sure there are safe spaces for youth to go when they need alone time, even in their own home. Add calming strategies to their day schedule. And Shay, what other tips do you have that others can do to help?
Well, what others can do to help is to help make connections with other family members. Just as Rebecca said, some people might not need help, but encourage it. And there's also access to resources, and check in regularly with the one you love, and also remain approachable to him or her.
Those are all fantastic suggestions, guys. We've got one final slide for the GLAs, and we know that Will and Shay are fantastic self-advocates and great role models for young people in that capacity, and they wanted to share some final thoughts. Shay, would you like to go first?
Yes, here are my final thoughts. For a younger generation, be as independent as you can, and always remember to ask for help when you need it. And I know I have a bad time of asking for help too. So I'm guilty of that too. So, and another thing too is don't be afraid to challenge yourself and try new things.
And Will, you had one final thought too.
Well, one of the things I was taught is that, there's nothing wrong with letting other people help and guide you. They can encourage, they can suggest, they can recommend, but in the end, they have to let the person make the final decision. They are in charge of themselves in the end. So there you have it.
think that is the best advice that anybody on this call, if you're a young person living at home, if you are a parent of a young person, what you guys have shared, Will and Shay, really bring truth to all the things that Rebecca started off this presentation with. So I thank you for all of that. I think everybody here thinks the same thing. I'm going to move on to the shared virtual community that you guys mentioned and gave us a great plug for. So I appreciate that, both you guys. So we knew during the initial phases of the pandemic that many people experienced separation from the things that they normally did during the day, right? Schools were closed, day programs were closed, lots and lots of places were closed or had very limited service. So during this time, my team at the Board of Developmental Disabilities really kicked up our efforts to find places in the community that were open and inclusive, and then spent time engaging places that weren't, and to try to encourage them to be inclusive, adaptive, and accessible. We found lots and lots of places. We knew at that moment we needed to connect people with those places, and there wasn't a real logical place to do that. So we developed an online platform that's easy to use, that families and providers and individuals can go to find these inclusive, adaptive, and accessible places. And I want everyone here to know that we engaged many hundreds of places and personally vetted each one to make sure that they were inclusive or adaptive and accessible. They have to meet certain criteria, 6 certain criteria to be able to be on our online resource guide. And you can find all of that stuff at the website. What I'm going to do to make sure that I do this right is I'm going to stop share, then I'm going to share again so I can get to our website. And here you go. So this is the homepage of our Cuyahoga County Board of DD website. You'll see up here in the carousel, this changes to talk a lot about some of the great things we have there at the county board. If you end up scrolling through this, you will find our guide to inclusive places, jobs, and events. You could also find this if you scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll see you can find our resource guide right here. So let's just hop right in. There's a short tutorial here to show you how to navigate our online resource guide. This right here talks about the board's commitment to inclusion. And down here, all means all, that's our criteria to be on in the resource guide. So I'll let you guys check that out at your leisure. Right now we have 1 icon here. We will very soon have 3. 1 will be leisure and recreation opportunities. 1 will be events, special events in the community, and 1 will be for jobs. And I am so excited for the one for jobs because on there will be all of the job leads that we cultivate and open positions and information about those businesses to be able to connect people looking for work with the work opportunities that we've found. But until then, let's just pop here into leisure and recreation, and you'll see 9 separate buckets here. All of the places that we engage in the community, we find a bucket for, and we add it right here. So there's sports, recreation, and exercise, library, arts and entertainment, playgrounds and parks, special events, and to Rebecca's point about everybody who's looking for volunteering opportunities, right down here, we've got some advocacy, clubs, and volunteering opportunities. We've got food and shopping and services. Everything that's in our online resource guide that is free, you'll find in this bucket right here. And this one will soon be functional. It's not quite yet, but if you have your location turned on your phone or your iPad or your laptop, this bucket right here will populate all of the opportunities in the online resource guide by what is the closest thing to you to what's the farthest away thing to you. Sometimes people like to search, doesn't really make a difference what I do, I just want to be able to walk there. So that's what this bucket will give you. I am going to demonstrate for you the depth and breadth of what we'll find here. So if you're looking for sports and recreation and exercise, you will see all of these fantastic places that offer accessible, inclusive, and or adaptive opportunities. And you'll see we're just on the B's right now. This is a very comprehensive list of places and what they offer. So let's just click on Dancing Wheel since I'm here. And you will see when you get into the online resource guide, for every page that you visit, there'll be a short description, an address, contact information. You can visit the website right from here. You can get directions right from here. And down here, it will give you all of the amenities that that business has. You'll note that these are the ones that they offer. They're adaptive with the little icon right here. Other places like recreation centers will have things that have no icon next to it because it's important for you to know. I think it's important for you to know all the amenities and also which ones are adaptive. So this is really exciting. I can go back one, hopefully, and show you. Special events, because I think this is our newest feature right now, and I'm so excited by this. It has a calendar functionality to it, so you can search by day. You can move ahead to other months and check out things that are on that day. But if we look on February 17th, here's today. This is a mix of virtual opportunities and in person. Oops, make somebody have some motion sickness here. I go that fast. But all the different things that are available today on the 17th. Tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff. Some are virtual and some you'll find are in person. And I just think this is a great way to fight boredom and fight loneliness. You can connect with people on here. You can connect with places on here. And I just think it's a great opportunity to find out what's there in your community. So without further ado, I think we've shared everything we came to share. I think we'll all be interested in taking questions if anybody has any.
Anybody can answer by chat or by voice.
That's right.
Yes, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
We'll be here all night if we need to.
Wait, whoa, Will Gallup.
No, I'm kidding.
You guys were great. This was such a wonderful presentation, very honest. And, you know, I think as adults, you all can express, well, you know, real issues you have had and maybe are still having and how you've dealt with them and deal with them in a positive way right now, which some of us really need help with and we're too scared
Right.
to ask. So I really appreciate all of you, Janet, Shay, and Will.
That's why we're here. So
It's
Yeah.
a pleasure.
One question I want to start out with before
Sure.
others join in. How does one become a Good Life ambassador? What qualifies you for that?
Well, I think you have to be 18 or over, first of all. And then you have to live in Cuyahoga County. And then when we hire someone, we send an application out, and then many apply, and then we figure out which ones are qualified to interview for it. And then when they interview, they have to review the interview notes, and then they make a decision on who to hire, basically. Shay, Jay, you wanna expand on that?
That's
Yes.
about it. We had 5 positions. We've always had 5 Good Life ambassadors. And as folks roll off, we have the opportunity to bring on new ones. And that's how we got Shay and Patrick last year. We had a couple of GLAs who moved on and used their GLA experience as a springboard to other opportunities in the community. And we brought on Patrick and Shay, and we're so proud that we did.
Yeah, Grace and I are the ones that have been with them the longest, so. The whole time, really, so.
Yep.
Any other questions?
You guys do a great
Seeing
job.
in the chat that people want to just verify how you get the guide, and I had put the web, it's not an actual guide, it's an online tool, correct?
Yes, correct, Wendy. Thank you.
Yeah,
I want to clarify that. And the other thing that I get from the Live Special end is people think it's just for people that live in Cuyahoga County, when a lot of the resources are Cuyahoga based, but anybody, this is a great tool for anyone that lives in the area, because if you want to explain a little of that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We started the online guide in sort of phases. Phase 1 was really for adults. We knew that in the pandemic, adults really were disproportionately affected by the loss of programming, the loss of services. And we focused really, really hard on finding opportunities for adults. But, you know, as you're out there finding things for adults, you find things for youth as well. I think we talked early on about making sure that we are addressing all areas of the county. And if you live in Solon stuff is great, but you may want to move to Geauga County to find some cool things to do. So we talked about, as we get into this more and more, that we start looking at sort of neighboring counties and adding things there, just to make sure that we've got a full, a comprehensive guide for what people are looking for.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question for Will.
sure, go ahead.
Can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you though.
Oh, bummer. I can't ask you my question.
Can you type it in the chat?
No, you had to see me, but it's okay. My son will be 19 years old next month, and I had him when I was 43.
Oh, well,
So can you add and subtract how old I am right now?
okay. So you're 43. So you have to be about in your 70s. I'll bet. I know this because my mom was 38 when I was born.
Yeah, you're not, well, let's just say I'm not as old as 70.
Oh.
But what you do is you add 43 and 19, and that'll
Oh.
give you 62.
Oh, wow.
So I'm 60. But
Wow.
I related to you because people always tell me I don't look my age, but when you get to 60 years old, you feel it.
Well, maybe I'm feeling it in some ways. I'm in my age anyway.
You two have been awesome, inspiring, and I took notes because I'm a mommy that can't let go, and it's hard. It's really hard.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I
I
get
mean,
that.
I'm sorry, Shay. I have to admit, I'm sure it's been hard for my mom many times after I moved out, but she just lets it go, you know. But I know it was hard.
To be honest, I'm all the stuff that you're not supposed to be.
Aren't we all?
I'm a recovering, controlling perfectionist.
Mm.
I'm guilty.
Yeah. I
Well,
think as moms, we need reminders, and sessions like tonight, really do help us. My son is 25, and it's hard to think about that, to think about that. So I think that seeing and hearing from people like Shay and Will really do always inspire us, which is why we wanted to have them here with us tonight, and they were wonderful. And
Well,
Janet,
thank you.
thank you. And we are at 8:31, you guys, and we're gonna close our session for tonight unless if we see another question or two pop up here.
Thank you,
Um,
guys.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so much for having us.
Yes, and everyone who's still on, please fill out our evaluation. Wendy and Lori have put it in the chat.
Oh, you have
And-
to do that now?
You can click on it in the chat and get it done now, and then that would be helpful. Then you won't have to look at it again. That would be extremely helpful if you could.
Okay, okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
And yes, so we hope to see you all again soon. Stay safe. There's snow coming again. Be careful out there.
Looking forward to seeing you all soon.
Yes. All right. Well, good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Good night, folks.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Amy, will you be sending an email with the link to